Donald Trump is spiraling, and now more than ever because his collapsing campaign continues to get worse for really two main reasons. One, his failed record in his first term as president, and two, himself, his own mouth, because every time that he goes out and tries to give what I guess is still considered a speech, but doesn't really rise to that level, he is hurting his campaign more and more, and he's doing so on one key issue that he used to win pretty significantly, that we used to see Donald Trump poll best on, and that is the economy. Voters are now leaving Donald Trump at such historic numbers and such quick rates, and it seems to be because of some new polling suggesting that Donald Trump is losing the trust of voters on the issue of the economy. And that is such an important contrast between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Of course, Donald Trump, someone who only cares about tax cuts for his wealthy friends, for giant corporations, and Kamala Harris, who is looking to lower costs for working class families. And I think it is so important that we talk about this on Labor Day, as Kamala Harris just delivered such a crushing message against Donald Trump that we are going to get into, and the unhinged response that Donald Trump had to it on Truth Social. So upset about all of these things happening at once, the collapse of his campaign. And I want to talk about all that. But first, let's get into this polling. More voters say they trust Vice President Kamala Harris to handle the economy than they do former President Trump, according to a poll released Monday by Financial Times and the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. Harris leads Trump 42% to 41% in the August poll when respondents were asked which candidate they trust to handle the economy, regardless of whom they plan on supporting in November. Now, trust on the economy is usually a metric that we see Republicans win at the national level, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, considering that under Donald Trump, there was a recession, really an economic collapse. The same thing happened under George W. Bush. The same thing happened under George H.W. Bush. And Democrats have a track record of cleaning up the failures of Republicans. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's something that we see consistently. This is the first time that Donald Trump has not led in this metric of voters' trust on who would handle the economy better since this poll started being conducted. So this is hugely damaging to one of the most important issues in this race for Donald Trump and, of course, for Kamala Harris. And she absolutely hit him hard on this issue in a speech given today that I want to check out before we see Trump's response.
Here's the thing. We have a choice here, right? And we're not going back, because we also know that if Donald Trump were reelected, he intends to give tax cuts to billionaires and big corporations. He intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He wants to impose what in effect is a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that will cost, and economists have said this, that will cost a typical American family almost $4,000 a year. He wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act and take us back to a time in our country which most of us remember, when insurance companies, you remember, had the power to deny people coverage based on a pre-existing condition. Remember that? Deny people, children who had asthma, a survivor of breast cancer, a grandparent with diabetes.
This is the case, and this is why it's so incredibly clear, this contrast between the two candidates, because it's not just about who you trust on the economy, it's who you trust to build an economy that works for you. And we know where Donald Trump's intentions are. They are to write another giant tax cut for the wealthiest Americans, for giant corporations to defend himself and his rich friends. Well, Kamala Harris wants to build out an American economy from the middle out, to invest in infrastructure, to continue to invest in American manufacturing, to lower costs for the middle class. This is the clear contrast that is leading voters to move to trusting Kamala Harris more on the economy, something so incredibly damaging to Donald Trump and his whole fake, of course, persona as this genius businessman, something that we know not to be true. But it's really getting to Trump that he is losing every issue, including this one that is held so near and dear to his heart. And that's why he's really losing it, and we can tell that by this Truth Social post. Trump writes, "Happy Labor Day to all of our American workers who represent the shining example of hard work and ingenuity. Under Comrade Kamala Harris, all Americans are suffering during this holiday weekend. High gas prices, not true. Transportation costs are up, not true. And grocery prices are through the roof. We can't keep living under this weak and failed leadership. Trump continues, "In my first term, we achieved major success to protect American workers by negotiating free and fair trade deals, passing the USMCA, US, Mexico, Canada, and giving businesses and their workers the tools to thrive. We also invested heavily in education and job training programs for those who wish to expand upon their abilities and be successful in an industry that they love. We were an economic powerhouse, all because of the American worker. But Kamala and Biden have undone all of that. When I return to the White House, we will continue upon our successes by creating an environment that ensures all workers and businesses have the opportunity to prosper and achieve the American dream." So no shock that a post from Donald Trump on Labor Day would be not about celebrating workers, but about celebrating himself, lying about the accomplishments of his administration, attacking the accomplishments of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. And it's really funny that Donald Trump thinks that he can paint a picture of his administration as being one that was successful on the economy, not one that led us with 14% unemployment, not one that added more to the national debt, even before COVID, than any president in history when Republicans pretend to care about fiscal responsibility. So it's just such an encapsulation of who Donald Trump is, just caring about himself, lying about his record, and protecting his rich friends. But this wasn't the only unhinged and really crazy post that Donald Trump made on Truth Social today, attacking Kamala Harris, really lying about Kamala Harris. And I want to check out this other one right here. Trump posted this image on Truth Social saying that Kamala Harris never worked at McDonald's and that she's lying about this story she tells on the campaign trail about her past. We've talked a lot on this show about how Trump is really just grasping at straws and trying to come up with some attack to land on Kamala Harris, and none of them have worked or even been true for that matter. They've all been strange and they really just backfire on him. Of course, his attacks on Kamala Harris saying an unsecure border was her fault was simply a reminder that Donald Trump torpedoed the bipartisan border deal. Saying that she was soft on crime as a career prosecutor was just a blatant lie, and also a reminder that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. And this new McDonald's attack that he's making, saying that Kamala Harris has been lying about a job that she had in college, which she's talked about on the campaign trail, I think the entire time she's been a public official running for office, something that is obviously true. And I think Trump is making this attack because he looks down upon working people, not something that should really be shocking. Donald Trump, someone who grew up with the silver spoon in his mouth, who doesn't know what hard work means. And it really just shows how separated from reality he is, that he thinks this is an attack that'll land. But again, he doesn't really have one. And it just shows how much he is losing it. And someone who did a great job articulating this comparison, really making the contrast between the resumes of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, not just in their political life, but in their personal life, was Jasmine Crockett right here.
And leader of the free world. So let's compare their resumes, shall we? One candidate worked at McDonald's while she was in college at an HBCU. HU. The other was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and helped his daddy in the family business. Housing discrimination, that is. She became a career prosecutor while he became a career criminal. With 34 felonies, 2 impeachments, and 1 porn star to prove it.
We know that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have both spent their entire lives in public service. Kamala Harris as a public defender, a district attorney, an attorney general, a senator, a vice president. Tim Walz is a public school teacher, a football coach, a member of our military, a member of Congress, and now a governor. Donald Trump has spent his life serving himself. J.D. Vance, as well as his time is in Silicon Valley, will show us in his 2 years in the Senate in which he's done nothing but vote against bills that would help working families. We know who these people want to serve. We know who these people have spent their lives serving. It is an incredibly clear contrast. And so when we talk about the differences in these candidates, the four, really, we can show it's not just the political, it is also the personal. But then when we want to talk about the political, we can just look at who's done what. Who's actually enacted the change that they're talking about? Who has actually fought for the things that they believe? Donald Trump is trying to make this accusation against Kamala Harris that she is a flip-flopper. which I don't really get considering that Donald Trump has gone back and forth on every issue under the sun over the past week, trying to find some sort of lane for his campaign, and it's not working, thankfully enough, because we all know that he is a liar. But we have seen which of these two candidates actually does the work that they care about. And the work that we care about, especially today, is fighting for an economy for all. And we know Kamala Harris has done that, and we know she will do that, and we don't even need to get into Donald Trump because we know what his record is. And we're going to keep talking about it on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you want to go an extra step further in supporting us, you can hit that join button and become a monthly member. And until next time, I'll see you soon.